thank you everyone for being here. It is so great. It is so great to see all the youngsters and to think you're all here to hear Bill Sommer's budget presentation. That is amazing. All right, we're going to call on Pastor Rich Iverson from Untitled Church to lead us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
You may need to get coloring books for your city council. This is a prayer from Every Moment Holy. I used this before, and I looked at it. I thought, this is so good, I want to use it again. So, our lives are so small, O Lord. Our vision so limited. Our courage so frail. Our hours so fleeting. Therefore, give us grace and guidance for the journey ahead. We are gathered here because we believe that we are gathered together into a work we cannot yet know the fullness of. Still we trust the voice of the one who has called us. And so we offer to you, O God, these things, our dreams, our plans, our vision. Shape them as you will, our moments and our gifts. May they be invested toward bright, eternal ends. Richly bless the work before us, Father. Shepherd us well, lest we grow enamored of our own accomplishment or entrenched in old habit. Instead, let us listen for your voice, our hearts ever open to the quiet beckonings of your Spirit in this endeavor. Let us in true humility and poverty of spirit remain ever ready to move at the impulse of your love in paths of your design. You alone, O God, by your gracious and life-giving Spirit, have power to knit our imperfect hearts, our weaknesses, our strengths, our stories, and our gifts one to another. Unite your people and multiply our meager offerings, O Lord, that all might resound to your glory. May our acts of service and creation, frail and wanting as they are, be met and multiplied by the mysterious workings of your Spirit, who weaves all things together toward a redemption more good and glorious than we have eyes to see or courage to hope for. May our love and our labors now echo your love and your labors, O Lord. Let all that we do here in these our brief lives, in this our brief moment to love, in this the work you have ordained for this community, flower and winsome and beautiful foretaste of greater glories yet to come. O Spirit of God, now shape our hearts. O Spirit of God, now guide our hands. O Spirit of God, now build your kingdom among us. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30, September 19th, 2022, and we'll call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
And we're going to clarify the hints section.
But we do have a quorum.
He was throwing his voice.
There's no accent.
The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and I will ask our acting city administrator, Bill Sonmore, if there's any additions or corrections to the printed.
Nope, it's as printed.
As printed, seeing no additions or corrections, I would entertain a motion accepting the
For
agenda.
that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll second.
Thank you, Krista. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. There are no public hearings this morning. Our first item of business is awarding of bids. So we have a resolution awarding the bid for public improvement 9767, which is Phase 2 of the Downtown Riverfront Project to Comstock Construction of Fergus Falls in the amount of $3,591,292.24. And we'll call on our Community Development Manager, Clara Beck. Good evening, Clara.
Good evening, Mayor and Council people, and to all of our visitors, thank you for being here.
I am just going to give a quick little overview and background of what we're doing tonight. As you will recall, back in April, on April 27th, bids came back for the first round of phase 2, if I can call it that. They came in fairly high, $4,990,000, $733.53. At that point, council deemed that too high of a project cost. It was sent back to the drawing board for a rescope. And what we have here in front of us tonight is that rescope. So in that time, the project was reduced. There was an elimination of some parts of the trail that were laid out, a revision of the site, and the project was rebid with 7 different alternates for flexibility. And I'll have Kent Luagi come up and get into a little bit more of the details of what actually did go out for bids and what you'll see in front of you for a project, but just as a little bit of an overview. So tonight, the project that's in front of you does still include many of the items that were initially put in the project that were deemed as important to the community. We have kept those in there. So what you'll see in front of you is a splash pad with a variety of different features for fun playtime, restroom, sidewalks that are going to continue the beautiful work that's been done with phase 1 across the street and over here onto this side of the project, a plaza area, and a complete reconstruction of the parking lot that's also attached to the project area. Also of interest may be some art foundations and some public art projects that will also be part of the project. So staff is not recommending the acceptance of an alternate 2, which was part of the bid project, or the bid package. That would include pieces of a trail that would continue down and then connect up to a bridge. There's no longer a bridge that's part of our project at this point in time. So that's kind of where we have been, where we are now, scaled down project with the new price tag that Kent is going to give a little bit more insight into, and then we will have budget numbers from Bill. So thank you.
Thank you, Clara. We're calling Kent Luagi from Bolden and Mink. Good evening, Kent.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Clara. So the bid package included, as Clara mentioned, the base bid and 7 different alternates. The alternates were all kind of a piece of the whole when it comes to the project, with alternate 2 being a trail extension along the river that really isn't needed since the bridge isn't part of the project. So 2 bids were received. We opened bids on August 31st. The apparent low bidder was Comstock Construction. Their bid amount was $4,070,455.67. The second bidder was Meyer Contracting. They were at $4,606,615.95. The engineer's estimate was $4.2 million. So during our review of the bids, we also noticed that one of the prices that Comstock had included in their bid seemed incorrect. So we contacted them and talked to them about it, and they confirmed that was a typo in that price. And they agreed that if the city did proceed with the contract, that they would agree to revising that price with a change order that gets processed concurrently with the contracts. And the correction of that price would reduce their bid amount by $106,260. And as Claire mentioned, also after discussion with city staff, it's recommended to proceed with all phases or all alternates of the project, except for alternate 2, and deducting that alternate 2 amount from the total amount bid, and also accounting for that price deduction I just described would result in a contract amount of $3,591,292.24. From an engineering standpoint, we would recommend, if the city wishes to proceed with this, we would recommend accepting the bid and processing a change order concurrent, accepting the bid for the base bid and all the alternates except alternate 2. Clarify that. And also processing a change order concurrent with contracts to correct that price.
Thank you, Kent. With that, I guess we would, Bill, would you like to break down the sources and uses?
Thank you, Your Honor. Council, as Kent talked about the bid, then we have the total project when you add in all the design, the construction, administration and whatnot with that. we have a project of $5,292,190. So I have that on a summary in the packet that went out that shows total project cost. So that's what we're going to talk about there. We did point out that is that construction contract you would award, plus design and construction administration, city staff. That would be our engineering staff that works directly on the project. Someone like me doesn't get charged to the project. And then we do have a 10% contingency, that's correct, right, Brian? So, which is standard whenever we do our projects. So the funding sources for this project. You'll see on that page, we have fundraising at the top of $2 million, and I know, the mayor will talk a bit more about that after a bit, but, so that's number one on there, is fundraising of $2 million. Our ARPA funds, the balance of that of $713,000, looking at putting that towards this project. As you recall, we've used those funds also to do work out the Big Wood, updating the technology and helping that to get off and running. So this would be looking at using the balance of that. And then we're ending the sales tax that we're paying for the library now at the end of September. And I'm projecting we should have a balance that we transfer to the general fund of about $500,000 that could go towards this project. The parking lot budget, we've been accumulating $35,000 a year in that. I think we're up to about 130 in that fund right now, and looking at pulling 100,000 of that towards this, obviously for the parking lot portion of the project. We have some MSA for streets in there, again towards that parking lot area for 160,000. And then if you'll remember, we had an abatement in place a number of years ago for the mall, and that was just used as a guarantee at that time. We never had to use that guarantee, so those funds are on hand. That's about 125,000. So using that. And then we had Bolton and Mink pull out what is the sewer portion, the water portion, stormwater portion, and putting those towards those individual funds. And you'll see that of 95,500 for sewer, water fund 38,000, 157,000 then from the stormwater fund. All that being said, comes down to what's the amount we need then to do in a general obligation bond like we did on phase one. And that amount would be just a little over 1.4 million. That's when you add issue costs to that, which you do on every bond, it comes out about exactly where we were at with phase one. Not by design, just the way that came out. So we would need to bond and levy a tax then to support those bonds for that 1.4 million. We would do that over a 15-year term is what we're proposing. That's what we did on phase one as well. When we look back at phase one, we looked at like a 10-year, 15-year, 20-year, kind of went in the middle option there, which is typically what we do with streets as well too. So that's why we're recommending to you that 15-year option to pay that back, and it mirrors then phase one. That would be about a $140,000 a year levy for that. About a 1.83% levy increase over the budget that we're projecting for 2023. The impact to a $250,000 home would be about $27 a year, or for $1 million valued commercial business, about $225 for that year. I do want to point out, when we actually look at bonding, so when we look at the fundraising, and again, I'll let others talk more about that, but a portion of that fundraising is going to come in over time, like we did for the arena or like we did for the library. So we bond for some of those costs too, and then we use the tax levy coming in, and then those donations coming in to pay the debt service on the bond. So when you add the portion coming in over time, and actually out of that 2 million, we're projecting a lot of it coming in by construction, but it would bring the bonds up to $2,125,000 is what I'm estimating at that at this time. So that difference would be what would come in like in the years 24, 25, 26, and 27. So yeah, that kind of summarizes that process. Not asking you for approval on those bonds at this time. We're not ready. I just wanted to put a good finance plan together so we knew where we were at tonight. So.
Thank you,
Okay.
Bill. So to the fundraising, if you remember at our April 27th meeting, the last time we talked about this, and we rescoped and authorized the rebidding of this project, Councilmember Hicks expressed his support for the project, but he also expressed his belief that we would need to do some community fundraising in order for this project to go forward. So in the time since the April 27th, we've worked internally with Councilmember Hicks, myself, city staff to determine what's a reasonable number, what's the appropriate number for a project of this scope, and we came up with the number of $2 million. And so we realized with the $2 million fundraising campaign, we were going to need the Vidine Trust to be on board. If you remember, the Vidine Trust were the ones who initially supported the project. Their initial support was for the amphitheater. Of course, the amphitheater is no longer part of this project, and they've remained engaged in this project, but they've always been adamant that the project be completed, and they've supported different parts of the project. So we got in the car, we drove down to the Twin Cities, Andrew Bremseth and I, and we met with the Vidine Trust, and we told them, this is the project that the community supports. This is the project for us right now. We need to raise $2 million in our community, and we need your help to do it. We did that earlier in September, well, giving them time, knowing that the council was going to take this matter up on September 19th tonight. Well, I'll say that within a half hour of us leaving the Twin Cities, they were on the phone and said they were supporting us in the amount of $1 million to get us started on that fundraising campaign. They said they'd be payable $500,000, bill like this, $500,000 this fall, $500,000 before this project would break ground in the spring. So I hope you'd agree that's very good news. And the other piece of good news I want to share on the fundraising, we've had two individuals in the community, I think you know them both well, who have stepped up and committed to being the leads for the fundraising effort. One is Peggy Underwood, whose family has been involved in pretty much every successful fundraising campaign this community has done. The other is Tasha Rolfs, who most recently was the force behind Otter Cove. And I think the force behind the children in the audience being here tonight, too, possibly. But anyway, that to me is very good news. I think that fundraising campaign would be in very good hands, and I have all the faith in the world in them. So if it's not too much, I'd like to just ask Tasha, would you just comment on your commitment to the fundraising for this project?
A part of the invocation that stood out to me was the phrase, "We gather because we believe." And I think we gather because we believe in this project. This is a hugely important project for the city of Fergus Falls. You look at splash pads and the communities that have them, and they're truly the mark of a modern and progressive city. Cities that really promote livability and that want to attract and retain young families. Peggy and I have chatted a lot about the importance of these in communities, and she's seen them firsthand and the impact that they have on communities as well.
Thank you for allowing us to be here today. I spent quite a bit of time in Cincinnati, Ohio, where my granddaughters lived for the past year. They no longer live there, but part of their city park in Cincinnati, which is beautiful, is a splash pad. And the thing that I loved about it is that anybody, no matter rich, poor, athletic, clumsy, anything, it's a fun thing to do, and you have people of all stripes there, and it's just so much fun. And I just think we have got such a good start with the pavilion. If we could stretch that out a little bit and have something for kids and young families to do, I think we are well on our way to having a really great city.
Thanks, Peggy.
And we thank you for your support, and we're very honored to lead this effort, and we believe we can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, I guess it's back to the council. The consideration on the floor is the awarding the bid to ComSec. Tom?
It would be my honor to offer that resolution.
So the
Your
resolution is to offer to award the bid, a resolution awarding the bid for public improvement 9767, Phase 2 of the Riverfront to Comstock Construction of Fergus
I will
Falls.
second that, John.
Jim, thank you for the second. Questions from the council for Bill, Kent, Clara, Tasha, Peggy?
Can I ask a question of
Please do.
the audience? You kids want a splash pad?
That was kind of an
Works for me.
Scott.
Ben, could we just get a reminder then of the time frame, the projected time frame, when we would expect to have the documents together to go to bid, and when the groundbreaking might happen, and what people might expect as far as the calendar as this goes forward?
Sure, Kent can correct me, the way the bids were awarded, they have the construction season up for, majority of construction will begin next spring.
Yeah, they
Could begin any time, but
begin any time, but we expect the majority of the construction would occur in 2023. The splash pad being operational by Memorial Day of 2024. And the reason we opened it up that wide was to allow the bidders maximum flexibility in timing of their own schedules and in an effort to avoid material and delivery delays that we've all been hearing about for a while.
thanks, Kent. Any other questions, comments?
When we did the first phase, there was discussion about the food truck hookups and stuff like that. Is that going to be in this plan?
Not at this point, that is not in there.
Okay. I feel like that should be in there. So I don't know how we go about doing that, but that should be something we look at for sure.
Thanks, Caroline. I think we can have that discussion at because it's been bid at this point, so that would have to be a change order at some point in the future, and that's a conversation we could have.
I believe that was one of the scope reductions we made in an
Okay.
effort to lower the costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can reconsider.
And we
all.
do have them half a block. But I agree with you. Did you have a comment, Justin?
No, I guess just we've come a long way, and I think there's been a lot of work down there and with master plan, and I've had a lot of positives from community members, and some maybe that weren't maybe for phase one because they didn't really know what it was going to look like, and now since phase one's happened, there's been a lot of positivity that I've received, and so I just want to thank everybody that's worked on that, staff, citizens, and I'm excited to see what phase two. Obviously, the renderings look beautiful, and I think we're going in the right direction.
Thanks, Justin. Scott.
One other comment I'll make, just so that we get it in the record and remember to come back to it. As we consider change orders, whether it's for food truck hookups or anything else, the water system for the splash pad can be done a number of different ways, with a drainage system or a recycling system or other things. And some are more expensive than others. And depending on how this was packaged together, we may have some options there to save some money or to save on maintenance or the related. So if we can take a look at some of those details, I don't think we need to do that at this moment, but I'd like to have an opportunity to look at some of those details.
Thank you. With that, roll call.
Arneson.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Hafer.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. We have one more, and that's just, it's a resolution, same project, in Public Improvement 9767, approving the total project budget in the amount of $5,292,190. Someone would like to offer that?
I'll offer that.
Thank you, Krista.
I'll second.
Thank you, Caroline. Roll call, please.
Arneson.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Hafer.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
A resolution is approved. Thank you all for being here.
That's as full as you've been in a long time.
All right. Thanks again for being here, everyone. All right, now on to the rest of the agenda. We have no petitions or communications this evening. We have 4 items for discussion, consideration on the consent agenda. If anyone has any questions on those, I guess we will remove them. Or we would entertain a resolution
that.
accepting the consent agenda.
Second.
Caroline, Jim, thank you. Roll call, please.
Arneson.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Hafer.
Yes.
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 Thompson.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Under ordinance and resolutions, tonight we have 6 items. First is a resolution accepting the project plans and specifications and authorizing the advertisement of bids for public improvement 9508. the Regional Treatment Center Phase 3 Preservation Project. And we will welcome our city engineer, Brian Navarro. And I know Bruce Paulson's also in the audience, so good evening, Brian.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. Yes, this memo before you is in regards to the Phase 3 Regional Treatment Center Public Improvement 9508. Yes, Stantec is here. We've substantially completed the project's plans and specifications. The Minnesota State Historical Preservation Office has also completed their typical 30, 60, 90 plan review of this project. I've included their response letter and along with the city's response letter to them that they had sent out. And if you recall, the deed is administering the state bond for this project. So therefore, I've also contacted deed in regards to the work scope and work items just to confirm eligibility of expenses for this project, that if we proceed, successful bids and proceed, we will of course be reimbursed to them. The estimated cost for the base contract of this project is $898,000. It also consists of 5 bid alternates with so for $830,000. So we're looking at a combined total of about a $1.7 million project that we're estimating. Therefore, we got to publicly advertise for bids. Now, if we flip over to the budgetary impact, we're proposing, like we have before, the remaining state bond funds from phase 2 and 3. We have an unexpended balance of about $1.7 million. I want to note just what I talked about, the combined estimated project cost is 1.7. We have about $1.7 million remaining. However, our total costs do have to include engineering and everything. So hopefully we get favorable bid prices, but whatever we do get in bid prices, our award recommendation is going to be in consideration of the remaining funds we have. So at this time, I'll just turn it over. As what I'm requesting is to accept the project plans and specifications and also the authorization to advertise for bids. So I'll just turn it over to Bruce Paulson too to go a little bit more about what his review with SHPO with this project. So
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, Bruce.
Good evening, Your Honor, City Council members. Gone through the 30, 60, and 90% submittal, as Brian indicated, with SHPO. Their first response back was after I submitted the 90% drawings. And then we had a brief flurry of email exchanges between myself and SHPO staff, and Brian was included in those emails. I did have a conference call with Sarah and Natasha from SHPO regarding the project, and then they sent the letter of September 6th to us indicating a couple of their concerns, and pretty much all of their concerns were addressed in the letter response on September 8th. Their concerns were of not removing the doors in building 1 and stacking them. Their concern was that if the doors get taken down and stacked, that they eventually disappear and they don't get put back in, or they get put back in the wrong location, or they get damaged when they're done. And so we revised the drawings to add a bent steel plate that will get attached to the center over the center hinge on every swinging door inside the building to hold it in its fully open position. Their other big comment was adding passive ventilation to the entire campus. And both Ryan and I tried to explain as tactfully as we can that there's only a finite amount of money that's available for this project to get this done. The SHPO staff keeps saying that, well, if we just take the window air conditioning units out, put louvers in there, that will be sufficient. Well, it's not, because a lot of the floors don't even have any air conditioning units. Several of the buildings only have 3 or 4 units. That's not nearly enough ventilation to make it work passively. Plus, the entire ground floor of the campus is basically below ground. So to try and take windows out and put louvers in for passive ventilation only works in spring, summer, and fall. As soon as you get to the winter, the louvers are right at ground floor. The louvers get covered up with snow, or snow starts blowing in the louvers. defeated the purpose of the ventilation system. So we will, we're hoping bids come in favorably so that we have some additional funds to do some of the passive ventilation that SHPO is requesting that we do. And that will be dependent on how the bids are received and if there's any funds available to move forward with doing that. So those were the main concerns from SHPO. Like I said, I received their letter late in the evening on September 6th, and we responded back on September 8th with revised drawings showing those accommodations that we made for the doors. They also, one of the other concerns they had was sealing up some of the interior rooms when we're, as part of alternate number 1, is doing an active ventilation system in building 1 in order to get that ventilated, along with doing a mold remediation to improve the indoor air quality in building 1 to the point where, if the city chose, they could start doing guided tours again in building 1. There's been interest expressed in getting that open again. So as part of that, because there's only one door accessing building 1 right now, in order to meet the building code to have the space occupied even for guided tours, we need to have more than one means of egress. So we're looking at replacing the 2 doors in the curved connecting link on either side of building 1 in order to minimize the amount of space that we have to ventilate as under the alternate. We're sealing all of the doors on the north side of that corridor. There's 5 of those doors that are the only door into those 5 rooms. And so SHPO had an issue with us putting up a solid barrier over the door opening so there's no access into those rooms. So we changed that to just doing reinforced poly sheet using the yellow duct tape that's really sticky to cover up those doors. And so if there's any kind of event that they need to get in, they can cut the plastic, unlock the door, and get in those rooms. So that's the comments, and I checking my emails just before I got out of the car. I received an email from Sarah acknowledging receipt of the letter that I sent to them on September 8th, and indicating that she was forwarding it on to Natasha for her review. I replied back to remind her that I sent it to both her and Natasha on the 8th. So hopefully they get back to us shortly. But with that, I would like to request approval to issue the plans and specifications for Phase 3 exterior stabilization at the Regional Treatment Center for bidding.
Thank you, Bruce. We can do that through resolution. Scott?
I'd like to offer that resolution, Ben.
Thank you, Scott. We have a resolution. Would someone like to second?
I'll second that, and I have a question.
You bet. Thank you, Justin. Go ahead.
Question just more is clarifying to the letter. They point out a few things. So I'm just trying to remember, in terms of getting approval to be refunded through the dollars, the grant dollars that are there. You had mentioned the ventilation. Say the bids come back and we don't have extra funds to do the ventilation. Do we have to go back to them? Is like contingent on being refunded that we do the ventilation, or explain to me how that works again, please?
Yeah, if it's not eligible, once we get the bids, I envision we're gonna go back, so we'll have the actual work again, just to confirm. I want to do that, but like security cameras are not eligible. So once again, if we do go back and look at the ventilation, I'm gonna run it past Steve just to ensure
It's refundable.
reimbursement and everything will be, and if it's not, then we'll have to go back to legislators, but I don't think that, we'll talk about that later on.
If I could just follow up. So we're going to go back, but let's just say we don't have funds to do the ventilation. Could they potentially say you can't do any of this? Or is it like item a la carte where they'll refund some, but they won't do others? But can they say, because if you don't do ventilation, we're not doing any of it?
From SHPO, you mean, saying?
Well, because the Department of Interior is the other one, right?
From deed?
Yeah.
Yes, so from deed administering that, they will confirm. So, and I don't believe ventilate, certain aspects are within the confines of preservation.
Yep.
Are eligible, and some that are not, like I said, security cameras, which can be used as a campus security, obviously, but it's not a preservation, so it's really by the definitions, which we would confirm.
Sounds good, thank you.
Brent?
I was under the understanding with the SHPO, that was just to maintain the historic, tax credits down in the future. I was not aware that SHPO was going to be involved as far as stating whether we can use the money from the state to do what we need to do to this building. Because, I'm not willing to go and start putting a ventilation system through an entire structure other than building one, because we know for a fact that one's never coming down. So, I'm a little bit confused here as far as I figured SHPO is we could just do certain things so we could restore, to maintain the tax credits. I did not know it was a requirement in order to be able to get the money from the state.
So SHPO is not saying what's an eligible cost or not. I think they're more opining on what you can do to the building. Is that correct? DEED, Department of Employment and Economic Development, is the one who says what's eligible costs. So SHPO is not going to impact the eligibility of costs, I believe.
Yeah,
That's
they
we
won't.
work with DEED. So
Now, when we go out for bids, it's for all the things we discussed earlier, we can still pick and choose what we want to do.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm willing to board up all the main floor windows in the basements in order to keep the people out of there and keep our liability down. Patch the roofs, keep the water out so we can maintain the structure for as long as we have to, but, and then anything that might be enhancing of the main structure. But as long as we can pick and choose on the end, then, I'm willing to go forward right now, but if we weren't able to pick and choose, I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Yeah, and the passive ventilation system is strictly that. It would be starting with looking at removing the window air conditioning units, putting louvers in those openings, but we would also need to do additional window removal to get additional louvers to provide
Adequate.
uniform coverage for air circulation through the building. There's no mechanical system associated with it. It's just strictly louvers and having them spread around every floor in every building to allow air to move through the buildings. Again, they came back and think it's an insignificant amount of cost to do this. And I just
let them pay for it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brent. Other questions for Bruce or for Brian? Go ahead, Scott.
Just a comment, I guess, is with the conversations on ventilation and the other details with the doors and whatnot, as a part of the whole, they're a relatively small piece of what we're talking about. The biggest impact that's going to be gained from this is the repair of the roofs, keeping the water out of the building and stopping and very dramatically limiting the deterioration of the building.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yep. So
that's 90% of it. That's the big deal here.
right, the base bid includes covering all of the ground floor windows, all the glass block, and all of the first floor windows that are glass block. And while on building one, there are aluminum windows at the first floor, but those windows have been replaced, and so they're not considered by SHPO to be historically significant, so we can attach the plywood right to the aluminum frames on the first floor. We couldn't do that on second and third and the tower because those are all wood windows, and they're considered historically significant. But everywhere else, it's putting plywood, everywhere else except for building 29. We're putting plywood over the glass block windows on ground and first floors to prevent additional break-ins and additional breaking of the glass block. We're also going around on all of the doors into the building and applying some sheet metal flashing at the floor slab, right at the threshold of the door, because some of the door bottoms have rusted out, and then we're covering those with treated plywood and painting them as well. Again, to try and limit the amount of accessibility by those who want to do damage to the campus. So the only two, when this is done, the only two doors that will access the building will be at the east side of Building 1 in the front, and at the back side of Building 1 on the backside. Those will be the 2 doors, and those were both installed as part of the previous phases.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other questions? There's a resolution and a second accepting the plans and specs and authorizing bids for project 9508. Roll call, please.
Armisen.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Egbert.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. Nice evening.
Item number 2 is a resolution approving the 2023 preliminary budget in the amount of $51,314,518. We'll call on our City Finance Director, Bill Sommer.
Thank you, Your Honor. We did go through this budget at a work session on September 6th at 4:30, so I'm not going to review that again tonight. But we are asking you to approve that preliminary budget and then the preliminary levy, and that's listed in here at $7,650,000 even. We'll also be setting a public meeting on December 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. or later. That's another resolution, and that's where the public would be allowed to speak as well. It's part of the truth and taxation process that we do every year. So certainly if you have any questions, but I wasn't going to go through it again. We'll go through it again in detail at the December 5th meeting. And between now and December 5th, the Tax Levy Committee will continue to meet and work on this budget too. So.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, again, that's
And one other, with the levy, we can always go down. We say this every year, we can always go down by December, but we can't go above where we're at then tonight.
Thank you, Bill. And again, just to remind the public that December 5th is the opportunity for them to speak on behalf of the budget to the council.
And I just want to say we are working at bringing that down. We're not happy right now where it's at, so we would like to bring it down a little more, and we are working on that.
Thanks, Jim. Someone like to offer a resolution?
I will offer that.
Thank you, Jim, accepting the preliminary budget. Second, Brent. Questions? Yeah, Scott.
As we get reminded that we can't go up but we can go down, and you're looking at ways to make adjustments, noting that our utilities were going to go up by so much for the natural gas bill, 115%, I believe it was, and you didn't make as substantial a change to other utility areas or fuel costs or whatnot. As you maybe find us to go down someplace, I wonder if you might have to go up in some of those other utility areas before we get to finalizing this.
We will review those in detail again. And we'll also come back to you with our utility funds. That's the city utility, water, sewer, storm, yet this fall too, prior to December 5th. But
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Bill. We have a resolution and a second. Roll call.
Armisen.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Egbert.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Next item would be on the same topic, approving the preliminary levy in the amount of $7.65 million.
I'll offer that.
Thanks, Caroline.
I'll second that.
Thanks,
Your Honor.
Justin. Roll call, please.
Armisen.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Egbert.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. And finally, we'll need a resolution setting the 2023 budget and levy public meeting for December 5th, 2022 at 6 o'clock or later.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Jim, Scott, thank you. Roll call, please.
Armisen.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Egbert.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
That resolution.
thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Item number 5 is a resolution approving the purchase of a replacement scoreboard at the American Legion Field.
Chad.
Chad Fellstool. I thought you were here for the splash pad, but you're here for the scoreboard.
I was not here for the splash pad. My kids are a little old for that by now.
Good evening, Chad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name's Chad Fellstool. I am the president of the Fergus Falls Youth Baseball Association. We are looking at replacing the scoreboard out at De Lagoon Park. That scoreboard has been there for a number of years and got hit by lightning quite a while ago.
3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. And so we're looking at replacing it with an inning by inning scoreboard. This one just has the score, outs, and count is really all that it is. So this is going to be a big 60-foot approximately, I think. Is that how big it is? Roughly somewhere in there, 60-foot wide scoreboard. The total cost that we're looking at is about $70,000. We're waiting on a few bids on some steel work for the beams that are going to be there in addition to the electrical. So the scoreboard itself is about $53,000. We're looking at about $17,000 for the steel work and the electrical. The city has about $6,500 that has been set aside on an insurance claim for the past scoreboard that would go towards the new scoreboard. The school is in the process of looking at a contribution to that as well. And our organization has committed to fundraise any amounts over and above what is being contributed by the city and the school for that project. And the way that it would look is getting business sponsors to have banners essentially underneath the scoreboard for a 5, 7, 8-year term that they would pay to contribute for that. So no funding from the city other than what that money is sitting there for from the insurance claim, but we will fundraise the balance of it.
Thanks, Chad. Questions from the council? Someone like to offer that resolution?
I will offer it.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Jim. Thank you, Brent. Is the, just out of curiosity, is American Legion one of the fundraisers, one of the sponsors as well?
I know we've talked to them. I think that's potential, obviously, with not being open, with pull-tab funds and gambling funds and things like that. But it's something that we can certainly talk to them about.
Yeah, just curious. I know they've done so much out there.
They've
at the
done a lot
field
out
and
there,
everything, so
certainly.
I assume they're filled.
That original field, we put $375,000 into.
Yeah. I know they've been a great partner with the city on that field. So.
I happened to be commander at the time, so.
Thanks. All right, thanks, Chad.
Yep.
Any other questions? We have a resolution in a second. Roll call, please.
Anderson.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Bickford.
Yes.
Kwame.
Yes.
Clifford.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Chad.
Item number 6 is a resolution approving a development agreement between the city and Sky Cruise Services. Brian Navarro.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good evening again. Back in August, Sky Cruise approached the city. If you recall, Sky Cruise Services is our new airport FBO manager at the Fergus Falls Municipal Airport. They approached us, myself, and requesting a development agreement for remodeling the airport AD arrival departure lobby. Since then, worked with Rolf, and we've reviewed this with Bill Sommer and everything well, but included in the packet is that development contract for your review and comment. I just want to know, pursuant per the terms, I believe everything is consistent what was shared before with this council and everything, but it's also included for review. But the Tacoma City share, if you look in the reimbursement to Sky Cruise and the $33,700 estimated for our portion of the construction costs, that sums up to $57,700. If there's going to be a reimbursement to Sky Cruise, it's also noted in there. They're also going to provide all material invoices, everything in that amount to validate their cost incurred contribution to this project. So. At this time, I just want to note that we do have available funds in the Airport 456 fund. I am going to try to utilize maintenance and operation funds that are reimbursed by the state up to 75%, but not everything can be used for that. So the additional cost would be coming out of the Airport 456 capital fund. So at this time, I'll just open up to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Brian. Questions, comments from the council? Someone like to get a resolution on the floor?
I'll offer that.
Thank you. Tom?
I'll second.
Thank you. Krista? Scott?
So I looked through the packet. It appears to me that this material is essentially the same as what we saw in the first view at our committee discussion of it. It still involves a management fee credit, which is tinkering with the contract, which I'm not comfortable with. And it doesn't include any additional details as to just really what would be done other than the real thin schematic plan. And I'm afraid I can't support it. It doesn't look like what I was expecting to see. I was thinking that we would be seeing something that had a better version of what was being proposed and that it wouldn't involve any tinkering with the contract. So I will not be supporting this.
Thanks. Scott?
Brian, this doesn't have the rent credit in it, right?
Yeah, Your Honor, if I may, Mr. Kwame. Yeah, just to be clear that there was the initial amendment, which was presented and well, we have executed that, but that amendment basically was a reduction of transaction between the revenue generated from the hangars of $2,000, and instead of them paying us and then us in turn paying their management fee, it was just a reducing their management fee for that. I can present that back. But that is not, you're right, you are correct, that's not consistent with what's before you right now, because we're looking to just do a reimbursement, same fees, everything, it's just reimbursement based on the invoices that they can provide for reimbursement.
So that rent credit Brian was talking about, that you already acted upon,
Yes.
right? And that was approved for next year, right?
Yes, that we're looking for implementation in January. Now, I have spoken to Sky Cruise about it, that First Amendment I'm referring to, and they will consider rescinding it. It was just an offering. If there is any, misperception or any questions about it, I want to say, they will consider rescinding that offer, so that's just fine with them too as well. But just two separate issues right here, but just if the council would like, they will offer that too.
Your Honor, I got just maybe two things. So
Yeah,
just,
Justin, go ahead.
I mean, to me, it seems clean. If Bill's comfortable with it, and rather than them pay us and we turn around and pay them right back, to me it seems like a pretty simple, easy plus minus where we go forward. As far as the renderings go, you alluded to this. I don't remember which meeting it was, but you didn't envision a big engineering cost and doing all sorts of elaborate things. This is the face of the airport. I get that, and coming into the community, but it needs a facelift, and I don't know that we need to go spend thousands of dollars for engineering to do it. I think what's being proposed, I'm willing to support. Staff's obviously done a lot of time on this, and if staff wasn't comfortable moving forward, then I would take that recommendation. So I am comfortable moving forward as it's presented.
Thanks, Justin. Brent?
I won't be supporting it. I didn't support it the first time around. We have enough projects going on out there right now. And even though there is state and federal money involved, we still have to come up with our portion of it. And I know they wanted their fuel system fixed. That is one thing that's on the docket. You got the lighting system that needs to be fixed. You have all this on the docket right now. I think we need to work on these. I'm not against this. I'm against it right now. I think we need to work and get the other ones taken care of first, and then make sure that we still have the funding available to do this later.
Thanks, Brent. Anyone else? Have any questions, comments before we call for the vote?
Do you want me to talk about the fuel system briefly? We talked about that, and just to give you a little peace of mind, we discussed that between Brian and Guy and myself and Andrew. Our fuel system down at our shop, we run that out of our equipment fund. So Brian proposed to us, could we help fund that fuel system then through the equipment fund, much the same way? The concept actually does, could work, and then we would rent that fuel system for the portion that the equipment fund put in back in, and the airport budget would need to pay that over. So thus, there would be funding available to get that done. I just wanted to give you a little peace of mind on that, that is an option of doing that. And we've done that with the snow removal equipment out there as well. When we replaced the big batwing plow.
For the local match.
Huh?
For the local match.
For the match portion. Came out of the equipment fund, because then we're renting it back on that portion. Now, I'm not telling you to do one way or the other, just this is a way that we can do it, and that we've done it for the other pieces of equipment out there, so.
It's available.
Correct.
Your Honor, if I may, just to enhance what Bill, we present that sources uses, so yes, Mr. Thompson, you are correct. We have the airport joint repair, we have the fuel system, that will be coming back to the next council. We have the AWA system, the ILS, and the lobby remodel. So when you look at our local contribution share for all those projects, we're about $512,000. Now, if you take in the amount that's current balance in the 456 fund, we're looking at a projected shortfall of $220,000. Now, based on Bill's comments there about funding the fuel system through the equipment fund, if we do that, that will in turn, in fact, change that $220,000 shortfall projection into about a balance of $56,000 plus. So that's what we're proposing. It's saying we have sufficient funds to proceed with our portion of it. So
Thanks, Brian. So, any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Arneson.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Egbert.
Yes.
Twining.
No.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
No.
That resolution is approved.
thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Under presentations of claims this evening, we have claims in the amount of $961,313.05. Anyone has any questions, we'll direct them to our city finance director.
I will offer the resolution to pay the bills.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
Thank you, Krista. Roll call, please.
Arneson.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Fish.
Yes.
Egbert.
Yes.
Twining.
Yes.
Rupert.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. There are no board, committee, or department reports or reports from staff or administrative officers. There is no old, unfinished, or new business that I'm aware of. Lynn, do you have any miscellaneous announcements? Hearing none, if there's no business to come before this portion of the council, we'll be adjourning to a closed meeting to consider real estate offer pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05. We won't be reconvening. We won't be reconvening this evening. Hey, Clara. Hey, no.
I love it. I love it.